And we are back to the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, where we're going to be talking about if this 65 game requirement that the league has added is a good addition or if it's a bad addition. Now, the reason why this segment is being brought up is because I can't do it without mentioning Joel Embiid's most recent injury. As you guys might know, Draymond Green went out with what looked like to be a hyperextended knee. Again, we don't have much information on what the injury is. Be ready for an update on one of our shorts in our TikToks because I will definitely update you guys on when the injury status of Joel Embiid is revealed. And most recently on Draymond Green's podcast, he said Joel Embiid playing tonight felt very much so because of the 65-game rule. I think it's actually quite BS, end quote. So Draymond Green clearly voices his opinion. He doesn't like this 65-game requirement whatsoever, and he's saying that maybe Joel Embiid wouldn't have played tonight if that 65-game requirement wasn't there, and it thus forced him into re-aggravating his injury. Now, I could see Draymond's I could see why Draymond's opinion, that's a relatively valid opinion, as to why he doesn't like the 65-game rule, because if it's going to force players to play when they legitimately can't, but they want the incentives, and they feel like it's just going to contradict, and it's going to it's really going to weigh in. Do you protect your your body, or do you go for the award now that you're number one in the MVP ranks? Which one do you do? It was really tough, but Joel Embiid went and pushed through, obviously, and it didn't end up going his way. But he looked a little bit injured going into the game, even though he didn't relatively play that well. Regardless whether he's injured, he did not play well at all. If you're injured, you shouldn't be hugging the ball the way he did, and you shouldn't be turning the ball over the way he did. It's the same thing that James Harden did when he was going up against the Milwaukee Bucks and he injured his hamstring. He was just holding the ball for 24 seconds trying to do something, and it just didn't end up working in the end. Crucial PG's back in the chat. What's up, man? I haven't seen you in a while. But anyways, now onto what another player who doesn't like the 65-game rule. Tyrese Halliburton was quoted saying that this was a stupid rule, even though in my opinion he's probably only saying this because he's also not safe from succumbing to this rule either and not making All-NBA. And not many players like this rule. And I'm curious as to why. I don't really see this as a stupid rule or a stupid implication. If I was an NBA player, at least, he might think it's stupid because he's going to miss out on all NBA selection, which would give him a huge bonus. So obviously, he will be upset about that. And I understand where he's coming from. It's like they're trying to move the goalpost from under his nose, and it's a little bit unfair in that sense. But you also have to understand why these rules were put in place in the first place. It's not moving the goalpost. The NBA is just full of way too much talent now, and it's full of players who are worth that All-NBA spot, the All-Star spot, the MVP. It's full of all of these type of players who deserve these type of awards, and it's on a surge now because of how many people have been scoring 60, 70, 50-point games and putting up all these types of ridiculous stats. And it's a surge, and we've noticed it coming from the past season. Well, actually, it's a surge that's been happening since the Golden State Warriors made their super team with Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. That's what I've noticed, that a lot of these super high-powered offensive teams, they've emerged directly after that. So it's almost like it's a renaissance for basketball, in my personal opinion, in scoring the ball at least. It's a huge scoring surge. It's really something to see. We've had back-to-back seasons with two people scoring 70 points. That is literally unheard of in this league. So with that in mind, it has become very, very difficult for voters to decide who deserves this award, especially when some of these players are averaging these numbers but sat out a considerable amount of games. That's the big problem that's been coming around. Like, your best ability is your availability, as they always say. And I personally think that how often you're there for your team through thick and thin, and whether or not you are injury prone, is important. And it's an important factor that should be measured, in my personal opinion. It might be unfair to the athletes who are injury prone, because they can't really control like if they get injured and whatnot. But I understand that like bad things happen. You also should be like held accountable to protecting your body better than so you can be there for your team. Like, we should be giving these star players that play a lot of these games a lot more praise than they do for being able to play these games and to stay healthy for these games. It also makes it a lot easier for the voters to decide. Like, for example, Joel Embiid, the last season when he won MVP, he didn't really play that many games, but he won the MVP. So, like, just for a hypothetical sense, we'll put it into, like, Joel Embiid only played 58 games. He won the MVP or all NBA over someone like Giannis, who played 72 games. Let me know in the comments if you think that total games played would matter in the kind of situation. Now, that was completely hypothetical. So, like, if Joel Embiid only played 58 games, but he won the MVP, and then Giannis only played 72 games, like, who do you think, based on how well they average, based on the numbers that they average, which of those two do you think deserves the MVP? The one that played less games, or the one that played more games and was there for their team more? The MVP voters have been struggling because of this. And, like, what exactly is too little games played? Like, there was never a line that could be drawn because everyone's opinion was different. So, but now that the NBA has decided it for them, it makes it a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier to eliminate certain players who aren't eligible for this award. Now, the only potential problem that I do see with this rule is if someone is averaging these great numbers, he gets injured, but his team literally cannot win without him. Like, every single game that he doesn't play, they've lost. And that to me, that is literally like what the MVP is. Because without that player, the team is literally just losing and they're nothing. And I'm not talking about like winning some games. I mean losing all of their games without their star player. He wasn't there. Then that literally means that without him, his team can't win. But that's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. Not to mention, this is another method of the NBA trying to get players to stop sitting out of these games. This is all Greg Popovich's fault with his really smart strategy of load managing. It's just now that teams are starting to abuse it for their own good to ensure that their players are well rested. Now, I agree that this is a very smart move. But while it is smart, I also think it's relatively selfish and a weak move from an NBA athlete. Like I mentioned before in previous podcasts, a lot of fans don't really have the money to go and see an NBA game live. But if they do, if they really want to see an NBA live game, a lot of them save up the money so that way they're able to either pay for a ticket if the game is relatively far. Pay for a plane ticket is what I meant. Pay for an actual ticket for the game. Pay for a place to stay, assuming the game is away, and just to go to one game and just to see their favorite player live in action and hooping. You see it all the time. Some players hold up signs saying that I just flew all the way from the other side of the world just to watch Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, just to name a few. And this is applicable for all ages and for all genders as well. And now imagine that they get news that their favorite player is out. Like, as a child, like, my dreams would be crushed if, like, my parents are like, we're finally able to bring you to an NBA game to watch your favorite player, and then the player just gets hurt. It's like, and not only that, but then, like, the parents are also going to feel relatively bad because it's like, wow, we wasted all this money and he just decided not to play. And it's a good thing that my favorite player growing up was Kobe, besides LeBron. Like, all of you guys know that I'm a LeBron fan, but I've grown up watching Kobe, and Kobe is my favorite player. Yes, he's my favorite player, but that doesn't mean I'm delusional and I think that he's better than LeBron. I'd say I have a relatively good knowledge of basketball, and I know that LeBron's better than Kobe. I'm not like one of those crazy Laker fans. I have nothing but respect for both of these players and their talents, and I appreciate what they both have done for this game. And they are both they're both the best players in this game. I have them top 3, both of them. Now, obviously, you might think that I'm crazy for having Kobe in the top 3, but it's my opinion, so I can say what I want. And Kobe never sat out. Unless he literally couldn't play, unless he was playing with a broken leg, unless like his arm falls off or something like that, he never sits out. He played with a broken finger. He's played through so many injuries. If he can hoop, if he can shoot the ball, he is going to play. He wanted to do everything that he could to help his team win every single night. And he played every single game like it was a game 7. And these are the type of players that I have like lots of respect for because they get it. They understand that a lot of people are looking up to them. And it's a lot more than just winning a game of basketball and winning for your team. I mean, it's all about winning, and it's all about winning the championship. Don't get me wrong. But you also have to think about like your fans and like the people that support you to get you to the top. And sitting out for these games, like the way that a lot of these star players do, it's incredibly selfish in my opinion. And that's why I have a lot of respect for Ant, who is one of the players that has the same mentality as I do, where you shouldn't, or not as I do, but the same mentality as Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, where they have to play every single game because there might be some fans in there that can only pay for one ticket. And if he doesn't show up, he's just letting them down. And he can't let his fans down. That is a great attitude to have towards these games. And it's amazing like how it completely shifted in this time. Like I didn't think it would shift. Like why are these players just choosing not to play these games? It doesn't make much sense to me. Like it's their life. This is what they do. This is what they work for every single day. And they just decide, nah, I don't want to do it. I don't want to play it. Like what would happen if all of a sudden like I just randomly decide, I don't want to do this podcast anymore. Like what's going to happen? Like and nothing really happens to them either if they do miss games. Like they don't get fined for it, even though like if they do get fined for it, I feel like that's a little bit too much. Unless you're Kyrie Irving, who got fined for, not taking the vaccine. God, I can't stand that man. But regardless, like this new load managing perception, it's like it needs to go. It has to go. And that's why I really credit Adam Silver for implementing these new ideas and like these new ways to sort of try to make the regular season much more important, so that way the star players could play the rest of these games. Now, it's ironic how a lot of these players are like complaining about this 65 game requirement, but this 65 game requirement wouldn't have been a thing if all of the players just played the game like how they normally do. Like if it was their jobs and just wouldn't choose to just randomly sit out for no reason just because, oh, this is against the worst team in the league. I don't got to play this game. Oh, this is a playoff team. Oh, let me just rest and like save my game for later in the playoffs. Like, no, you play every game like it's a game 7. Like all of your fans, like they saved up to watch you play, and you owe it to them to show up to these games and to play in these games if you are able to. Now, if you legitimately are injured and you have to sit out and you don't want to re-aggravate any other injury, I understand why you would sit out and like you take time off. But if you are able to play, just play the game. Like it's not that difficult to ask. Just play the game. That's all our fans want, just for you to play. And like as a Nets fan, I've never had that opportunity because Kyrie, Kevin Durant, James Harden only played 17 games together. Harden is the only one that I will like exempt from this because Harden never took breaks. Harden always came to play like every single time. He doesn't load manage until the end of the season. He knows how valuable he is for his team, and he knows the fans come to see him every single night. He's another player that I don't give enough credit for that. But Kevin Durant and with Kyrie Irving, they just choose, oh, wait, I'm going to sit out this game, or I'm going to sit out this game. Especially Kyrie. Like, Kevin Durant might not be doing it now that much because he wants to get the MVP and he needs to meet that 65-game requirement. But Kyrie, Kyrie's just going to miss whatever game he wants. He doesn't care about that. he thinks there are bigger things to life than basketball, which there are, but it's Kyrie. He's a quack. But that's the reason why like these sort of rules have been put in place. They've been put in place, or like not rules, but like new requirements have been put in place. They've been put in place simply to like make these players like play these games and give value to the regular season, which is why I really like the in-season tournament, because it makes the games, like the actual games, much more competitive because they're fighting for incentives. Like now, it might not be like a legitimate title, but it still gives like a lot more like value to the regular season and gives more incentives to players to continue to play the game and to not sit out in these games. And with that, we are out of time for the fourth segment. Thank you guys all for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast. If you enjoy this episode, please remember to like and to subscribe. Don't forget to don't forget to click the link that's in the description below to tip and to donate. Once again, that is streamelements.com/GSMCsportsnetwork./tip. It is displayed right below in the ticker as always. And I'm your host, Nelson, and I will see you guys in the next segment tomorrow.